Hi, everyone. Hello and welcome to our live museum presentation. We are so excited to have you join us this morning for a virtual meet and greet with some of our collaborating artists. To view live closed captions in English and Spanish, please click on the external link we will drop in the chat in just a moment. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find the link to the closed captions in English and Spanish below in the description. So my name is Diana and I work at the Natural History Museum. Joining me behind the scenes is this wonderful team helping make today's program possible. Thank you, everybody. Today, we will explore the connection between art and science through our world-famous dioramas, and more specifically, a new twist on the classic tradition with our special guest speakers. We'll be together for about 45 minutes, and we'll have some time after their presentation to answer some of your questions about their work. So today's program might be a little different than what you might be familiar with. You won't be able to see your teacher or your classmates on Zoom or anyone else that's tuning in. We also won't be able to see or hear you, but I do want to take a moment to shout out all the students and all the homeschool from schools and homeschool as well who have logged in and joined us today. Thank you so much for being here. So although we won't be able to see or hear you, I do want to go over some ways that you can participate today. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can click on the chat box to type in a question or ask an adult or your teacher to help type in the question for you. Your questions will only be seen by the museum staff who are running the Zoom right now. The chat box is currently closed, but it will open up during the presentation. We do ask that all questions and comments in the chat stay related to the presentation. This helps ensure that we get through as many questions as possible. To respect our speakers and our staff, we also ask that everyone use appropriate language in the chat as well. Folks who do not follow the code of conduct may be asked to leave today's program. And we will try our best to answer as many questions as we can. But in case that we don't answer your question today, I encourage you to record your ideas on a piece of paper or a journal or anywhere so that you can learn more about today's topic on your own. All right, so here at the Natural History Museum, where we work, you can see all things like gems, minerals, insects, dinosaurs, animals in their habitats called dioramas. All of these objects and displays help tell the story of our planet. If you have visited here in the past, you might remember. Our habitat dioramas, like the one pictured here, are life-size models that help us tell many stories about wildlife across the world. If you've seen a diorama in person or in the past, you may have even made one on your own. Made by artists, scientists, and engineers, the museum's dioramas fuse art and science by combining taxidermy, painting, and scientific observation. Dioramas have a very complex history, but are important because they help us learn more about a wide range of animals. They promote conservation awareness and can highlight the impact of human activity and climate change. To celebrate 100 years of dioramas at the museum, the Natural History Museum recently restored and reopened a diorama hall that had been closed for many years. So the museum was able to reopen this fourth diorama hall as part of the Getty Museum's PST Art and Science Collide program. PST stands for Pacific Standard Time, and it is a large-scale art event that focuses on showcasing art from all across Southern California. This groundbreaking cultural collaboration happens every 5 years and brings together artists, exhibitions, and events with one theme. We hope that you can have a chance to visit some of the many PST art installations and events all over Southern California, including our own Reframing Dioramas exhibit. There you'll find new immersive installations that modernize and revitalize what dioramas can be. So today with me are two out of three artists that worked on on one of the special dioramas in our newly open space. We'll see pictures of them in just a moment. They're very excited to tell you about their process and their journey working together and adding a new piece of their own art into our museum. Yesenia is a multimedia artist, a third generation master piñata maker, and founder of La Piñata Design Studio in Los Angeles. Joel is a multidisciplinary artist and entrepreneur, specializing in storytelling, game design, and experimental technology. Together, they worked with Jason Chung, a visual artist from Los Angeles that specializes in large scale paintings, murals, and installations. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming Yesenia and Joel.
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having us today. We're excited to be here to talk to you all about special species.
Hey, hello, hello.
So, yeah, we're just gonna kind of guide you through our project and give you kind of a breakdown of from ideation and from when the very before we even had a very clear vision of what we wanted to do and till the actual execution and it being up today, and we'll give you kind of the journey of what it took to make this happen.
Mhm. Yeah, it was quite a long process, so excited to share everything with you guys.
So this is us, obviously, and there's our third artist collaborator. We all worked together on this project, and we all brought different skills and different ideas to make the idea happen and to make this project happen. Um, Go ahead, Sen, if you want to say anything else about our.
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful aspects of this project was the collaboration because you never know what you can create when you work with different people. Like I was fabricating and Joel was tech and Jason was a muralist, but if when you combine all these different elements, we were able to create something very unique that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to create alone. So I think that in terms of how projects can get started and inspiration for getting things going, I think looking out and seeing what everyone else's kind of superpowers are, what would it look like if these superpowers were combined, and that project really showcased that a lot.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, I think, we all have ideas, and everybody here to get today watching this, we all have ideas, we all have dreams, things that we want to create in this world, and in every project, every great project starts with that one idea, and then once you have that idea, then the big thing is how do you change the world with that idea? How do you put it out there? And it's all about passion and persistence. And one of the biggest things is teamwork and working with other people. So, to make something happen. So, yeah, we can go to the next slide. We'll tell you a little bit about how we did our process.
So as I was saying before, yeah, I was the lead fabricator. My skill was basically creating 3D sculpture and utilizing my skills as a piñata maker to kind of create a scene. We did have a crew also helping us. My father was a big part of helping us with the activation. Oh, nice. Wow. But
Sound
yeah,
check.
getting some good tunes in there. But yeah, I mean, these are the kind what you're seeing. There's kind of the examples of the different skills that I was able to bring to the table for the team, which was pretty fun. It was pretty insane, but I think piñata work in itself is such a beautiful craft because it's really so free form. And I think when you're working with other people, it's important to be really flexible and to be able to bring all these kinds of different ideas to the table. And working with Joel and Jason and the team was great because everyone was so open to hearing and seeing what kinds of mediums we could work with, because a huge part of it with what we did was using a lot of recycled materials and scraps and not being so constrained to like it needs to be like this, you know? It was always evolving, always changing, and I think that was one of the best parts. And combining it with Jason's and Joel's work was like bringing sculpture, in my opinion, to the next level. So yeah, we can switch to the next slide.
All right, so a little bit about myself. What you're seeing on the screen is just some screenshots of my work. I mainly work in a lot of motion and video, and started working on video game development the past couple years just to make something more interactive. But I grew up doing video, shooting lots of video everywhere I was. I would have like a little camcorder with me. I was seeing if I had one next to me. This is pre-YouTube, believe it or not. So this is before streamers or any of that. So I would just film video all the time of everything I saw, and would make little videos and show them to my friends. Um, and then kept filming, went to film school, and then I started just working on different types of projects and making different experiences. And how it contributed to this was, we were able to create projections and video and audio work that would complement, Sen's 3D sculpture work and Jason's murals, and combining all these things with like 3D physical space, but then having, video projections and cool visuals. It creates this very dynamic feel, and the kind of like an immersive space that you really do feel like it's a dream world. So, we during this project, um, I was, both Sen and I, we learned a lot about 3D printing, for instance, and we took on a lot of things that we didn't previously know before the project. And I think that's so important for all of you to know, is like there's a wild world of technology and cool ways to get your art out in the world, and more than ever. And like I was just saying, I was filming video, before YouTube. Think of, now, you can share your work with the world. Before, even like filming a video and editing it was a lot of work, and now we all can do it. So, you know, there's always new skills and cool things, and that all of you can learn no matter what. It's all out there for us. And that's the main thing, is you don't have to wait to start making anything, whether it's drawing or coding or sculpting or filming, whatever excites you. you know Follow it and experiment with it and keep building, because you never know where it'll take you. So we can take it to the next slide.
Yeah. So these are some of the concept sketches that we did beforehand. There was a lot of planning, a lot of thought that went into what we were going to create. And I think one of the most important things that my father would always tell me is like, if you're going to do anything, then you got to start with a sketch, because you got to have a vision and a reference point, especially like bringing something to life out of your mind. Like having a roadmap for that is like pretty important. And we wanted to like tell a story. So a big part of what we did was like Joel was saying about bringing this like kind of concept of dreams and like different dimension into this project, because Natural History Museum, they set out a calling and they wanted to touch on like protecting the environment, also like endangered species, and bringing light to that. And one of the things that I was discussing with Joel and Jason was this concept of alebrijes, which are like Mexican folk art animals. And as you can see, each animal here is made up of different parts. And it was actually, they were conceptualized by this artist. His name is Pedro Leonares, and he's from Mexico, and he was a piñata maker. And he was on his deathbed when he had this dream where he saw these animals and they were chanting the word alebrijes, alebrijes, alebrijes. And when he woke up, he was healed, and he connotated that like experience to them, and like in a way like they were like spirit guides or like healing and him. And he started carving these creatures and bringing them to the world, and it blew up all over Mexico and is still celebrated very much today. So it's just kind of like this concept of like these special creatures that are set forth on a mission, or like on like this kind of like path that promotes healing. So I think with the piñata world and the colors and the different dimensions and the, like, trying to portray this concept of beauty, art, and then also a message of healing and a, you know, just more kind of like intentional concept of, if we want to say something to the world, what do we want to say and how do we want to portray it? And I think for us, we chose these champions to represent every season of the of you know winter, fall, spring, summer, and they come out during these specific times, and they're there as protectors for all the animals that are in the scene. We have over 47 special species in there that are on the California Special Species List, and they're on the brink of endangerment. But we wanted to create these wild, colorful, like pieces representing these special species as well as these champions to kind of just capture the attention in a different way that sometimes otherwise people would kind of overlook these creatures because maybe they're like blending in to the environment a little bit more versus being all colorful. So kind of took that artistic creativity and like just went with it. Yeah, so we could go on to the next slide. So yeah, again, concepts, designs, sketches, color, dreamlike, world, you know, different perspective. But those are some of the species. Yeah. Joel, if you want to touch on this, the scene.
Yeah, so with this, this is the layout. Again, I want to emphasize this a lot more, especially if y'all are, really into art and making whatever it may be, and is again putting together that plan. And we all have a lot of crazy, cool ideas in our head, and it's like, how do we get them? How do we make them? How do we put them in the world? And this is another, way we did this, and this is another part of executing our plan. And so this is the terrain layout, and this is a sketch of what the diorama, which would be a 3D space, would eventually look like. So, here you see that's numbered, and how it's laid out is we wanted to do, 5 different areas, which we call biomes in California. We wanted to make the desert, and we wanted to make represent Los Angeles, and we wanted to represent the Alpine, like Yosemite Falls, and on and on. So there's a couple others. And as we placed them in this, and sketching this out helped us really understand of how we wanted to place all of these different, all the like the animals and like the locations, that we wanted to show in this make this little, almost like this little mini world, right? And creating this sketch helped us kind of figure out where do we want to place things, and how do we want to make this so we make sure all of our different animals could be seen, and all the different sculptures could be seen, and maybe like how start kind of thinking how would the video be shown on the in the piece. So this is kind of a sketch of the elements of that scene. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. And again, this shows a lot about this. These are the seasons, and you can see all the different, all the different colors and how they change from season to season. And we wanted to really show, in winter time, especially maybe not as much in LA, but yeah, it gets a little more cool here at night. And we're representing those kinds of colors with like blues and like kind of that icy or colder, while spring is like bright and green and blue. So we really thought a lot about the different colors that represent the world around us, especially here in Southern California, but all over California. Sen, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I think we also wanted to really incentivize people to come and see it in different views. So changing it up and representing different aspects of what our human experience is. Just like life, we all have different life cycles. And then with this diorama, we also wanted to represent different cycles and we were able to do that with, yeah, like the different champions in the scene, the different lighting, and the different kinds of visuals that you can experience with that. So I think that was like a huge like part of our projects. Like, how do we make it like dynamic? How do we make it like push the narrative of creating a scene that's always changing, just like life? You know, I think that was really fun part of like being creative, of like trying to create something very unique and also just dynamic, and utilizing the tech was a huge part of that. And because we were able to like tap into like the way Joel's doing the projections and the lighting, like it really has this, it's a whole art form in itself that's like very beautiful in itself. We could switch to the next slide now.
So this is a 3D mock-up video, as it says, which we can play. And as you can see, I don't know if it's stuttering a little bit, but so I made this in Unreal Engine as once we started sketching out the space, then we were able to make a 3D part that says, okay, this is like the placement, and we kind of created this video for ourselves and to understand, how do we want this layout to look and what will it look like? But then this video really helped us to communicate our vision to Natural History Museum, and to other partners to understand, okay, this is what these guys are going for. Let's give them money to make it. So, that's, you don't always need money to make your artwork, but, in this case, it was, there's a lot of moving parts. So we had to have a little bit of funding. And, creating this video, for instance, really helped us to communicate our vision, and to put the word like, okay, this is kind of a really rough 3D sketch of what it would look like. So you could kind of see how we went from like 2D, from these, sketches that are kind of colored in, and then we took that and then we built it out in 3D space to give us a even better understanding. So yeah, again, just give us a rough idea, but you can kind of see how we're moving forward and we're kind of building on from that first just one idea where we have, endangered species, and special species that we want to communicate this idea to California. Okay, let's protect these animals, let's be aware. And then now we're here, right? Now we're at like at least in a 3D space. So, yeah, that kind of gives us an idea of how we want to do our lighting and the some of the sculpture pieces, etc. If you want to throw anything else in, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I think, well, this is perfect like
Yeah.
segue, but I think, yeah, being able to ideate your, or like, create your vision, bring it to life, I think it takes a lot of preparation, like visually, like Joel was saying, bringing it from sketch to 3D and Unreal, and like even like references out in the world, right? And like, where do we find our inspiration? And a lot of our inspiration is like looking out in the world around you and like saying, okay, I want to like choose from this and choose from that, like, and like kind of like mash together these different ideas and concepts. Like right here, we spent a lot of time trying to look up for mock-ups, like, okay, what kind of direction do we want to go in? So like, what kinds of references inspire us? I think that was like a really big part. And it's like a guide, like how are we going to pave our way forward? And I think a lot of that is getting inspired by things that are already out there, techniques that are already out there. I think right on this one we did like, mess around with like new technology. This is an example of that, like mid-journey technology, and like um, bringing like our own like history and experience with sculpture, like paper sculpture and all that. Like using these references was really big guide for us. You could like switch to the next slide so you could see like
Oh,
animals.
yeah, I wanted to throw in too, the thing too, and especially with what Sen does, building 3D sculpture pieces, it's time intensive. It takes a lot of time. You have to really plan it out, when you're building real physical pieces. So in our case, we were building over more than 60 sculptures, and you have a very, a time limit. So in that case, again, it's like planning it out, what do we want to build? How are we going to build this out? These are all things you have to kind of think about when you realistically want to make work that, that is larger than and like a larger piece. So I just was wanting to say, the manufacturing process and fabrication for Sen is, requires a lot of planning.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the coolest things about this project was how creative we were able to go with it. Meaning, a lot of the materials we used were like scraps or stuff that like people were like throwing away, honestly, and combining things that like paper, cardstock, vinyl, even like with the plants we were like 3D printing and even using like people's leftover acrylic scraps, just being really open to multimedia and mixing that up. And it's just kind of like the same concept of the alebrijes themselves. They're like a mixture of animals, and even the sea is like a mixture of different places, and the animals are a mixture of different materials. So I think having freedom and not like feeling like things have to be so strict was like a really fun part of this process. It's like, oh, how do we make this tree? Like, oh, I know, we could just like make some 3D print with some of the like scraps of the cardstock. You'd be surprised how like much access to resources you can have if you just start really being creative with looking. Like for example, a lot of our cardstock was from schools, from teachers that had excess, and like staples that had excess of like material that got damaged and they were like getting rid of it. And that's how we acquired some of it. Even the vinyl, like some of it was left out in the rain and we found on like Craigslist and other places like that. And what is like, and I think there's a beauty in finding art in a lot of things and finding opportunity in a lot of things. And I think being creative in how you utilize resources is like a pretty cool like thing to get into. So you don't feel like, well, I can't do that because I don't have money to buy all that stuff, or I can't do that because I would need to go to, you would be surprised how much access you can like have to resources when you really start putting your mind to it. And we can go to the next slide.
All right, so this is building out. This is once we're in the space. This is after like a year of almost a year of work creating sculptures, and this is once we're in the actual museum and we're building things out. So as you can see, we have things laid out inside of the space here. We were able to use, as you can see now, that 3D video and those sketches really come to use because in here we have to use a lot of math, so make sure, do your homework and do, math is very, very useful in everything you do. And so, make sure you don't sleep on the math homework, but a lot of math used for this and understanding, okay, how are we going to fit all of these 3D sculptures in this space? And then, as you can see in this middle piece picture here, that's the actual projections. So all those projections are mapped out, and there's more than over 100 different layers of projections that are happening on all these 3D sculpture pieces. So when we're really mapping this out, you have to think a lot about, okay, it's about sizing and it's about time. So we wanted to create a video loop, and it's 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and it's kind of all about telling a story. And, a lot of things with art in general, it's all about telling a story. So, at the end of the day, it'd be like these projections have to change and they have to create moods, and it's like a wave, right? So, um, this is us, installing and adding all of these different visual elements into the space. And it took some time, and a lot of troubleshooting and some failure. It's okay if you fail, but if you're experimenting and you're trying and you're moving forward, that's the main thing, right? So you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make a mistake, and you're gonna say, huh, okay, this and this and this happened. This went bad. Okay, now I have to go back and I can fix this, and I'm just going to think about it a little bit and I can make it better. So that's normal. That's all part of the process. And just remember that when you're trying and making your own things, whatever it is, that's the case. If you want to make your own business, if you want to be a streamer, if you want to play video games, you're going to be playing, there's going to be a lot of mistakes, but you fix it and you move forward and you just keep going no matter what. And that's always the key. So we can go to the next slide. And so here, these are like once we got it all installed, and these are like some social share like on IG and TikTok of different people actually going to see the piece. And so these are like the some final shots. I don't know if it's stuttering on your end, so it might not be, I don't know how well you could see it, but the I think you have to go to the museum to go check it out. It's great to see in person. We and it's worth seeing. Sen, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I think just to touch on what you were saying before, or what Joel was saying, is just that it was very, very much a lot of hard work, and we had to learn a lot of new skills that like the 3D printing, like we weren't like, you know, well versed in. We were definitely had a lot of really core skills to bring to the table, but we also learned a lot of really new skills. And I think not being afraid to step into something that you have to figure out along the way is super important. And then also definitely not being dissuaded when you run into challenges or obstacles, and learning to work together through those times, because those times are a part of the process. And it just really, yeah, I feel like we were really blessed to work with a lot of different people, that when we did have those challenges coming up, we found a way to get through it together. Even the museum, like the people that were helping there with tech, and like Liam and Chris, like they were amazing. And then like sometimes when you run into a challenge, like sometimes all it takes is like discussing it, and then someone has that idea to like help move everyone forward. So I just really think collaboration, um, persistence, and like releasing fear and being very courageous to move forward is what can really get you far in life. And the more we practice that, because we're not ingrained with that as like like when we're growing up, I think it's like something you have to learn. And there's a lot of experiences that can teach you how to be like more, courageous, and like not getting dissuaded. And it's like kind of like building up stamina levels, like when in a video game you got to get those XP points to like move forward and level up in the game. So yeah, it's such a pleasure seeing it come to life, though. It really is. And I think honestly it just shows potential of, yeah, we did this and we made it happen, and now it's like, all right, what's next, let's go. So yeah, it was such a fun project, honestly.
It looks like I think we're maybe a little over time now, so if we need to take questions, or I'm not sure what the schedule is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for sharing that story. I really enjoyed, hearing y'all chat about, what your inspiration was and how y'all were able to put it all together, and how art doesn't necessarily need to have, you know, all you don't need to have like, all the resources. You can be resourceful and find all of the tools and the skills that you need. So yeah, we can jump ahead into some questions. We definitely have a lot of questions here for you. Trying to get the document right
With what you were
now.
just saying while you're looking that up, I was gonna say, you can make something out of nothing, and I think that's an art in itself, right? And you don't need money, you don't need anything to make it happen. It's just you, and maybe a group of people, but you can always make something out of nothing, and that is the beauty of creation.
For sure. So we have a few questions here. The big question: when did you know you wanted to become an artist?
Um, I don't think, personally for me, I don't think I ever felt like I knew I wanted to be an artist. I think that I just was like it was just a part of who I was. Like I liked drawing. I was my father was a sculptor. My mom's side was like all pinata makers, and I just loved being around really beautiful spaces and seeing things differently and experiencing things like I don't know. I very just much appreciated art growing up and music too. Um, I guess it wasn't until I really wanted to do something different. It's like besides going to a 9 to 5 job and like getting into like a career like that. Because I felt like I just kind of wanted to be more free and just be able to do what I love. And I feel like art was always very therapeutic for me. So leaning into that and being able to do that, honestly was a huge blessing. But yeah, Joel?
Oh, I don't necessarily consider myself an artist in a way because I like to, there's a lot of we all have the ability to make stuff and we all make something, right? So like either we all are artists or you choose to be it, but I'd say like even if you have any other type of job, you can make other things. You don't have to label yourself as an artist. You can just you can have an idea or something cool that you want to do, and you can just do it and make it. So um, but as far as like, I think we all have it in us. So, anyways, I'll let you go ahead. We can go to the next question.
Yeah, I agree with Joel. I think everyone is an artist in their own right. Like there's artists in like cooks, there's artists in teaching, there's artists in like tech, there's art like it's so like in terms of like visual art, I don't think that's the only type of art that's creating, you know.
And like
Yeah, thank
cooking is
you.
an art. If you like to make peanut butter and jellies, that's an art, right? Like
Definitely.
so, if you like, so anything can be an art, and it's all in the practice, I guess. So maybe we're all artists in our own
Mhm.
ways. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, thank you. Kylie has a question. What is your favorite part of your diorama?
I think for me my favorite part is the projections and the light. I think because I'm so used to doing sculpture work, um, being able to collaborate with like Joel and Jason too, adding the murals in, but it's just it's just a whole new experience for me personally for seeing the diorama. And I think just I don't know, for me I love light, I love color, and I feel like the projections and all that really brought it out and really told a story along with the music. Um, I just love how immersive the projections and the music and the lighting really brought it all together.
I'd have to say it's probably a cop out for me to say, but like I think all of it coming together, right? You have the sculpture, and then you have all the light, and you have the projection going, and the like the sculptures are beautiful. There's so much going on in the space, and I think when it all comes together and like the lights went down in the hall and then you just have this glowing beacon. I think when it all kind of comes together with Sen's 3D work and sculpture work and then it all kind of when you see it put together, you're like, oh, okay, it's there, like yes. And so I guess it's the collaboration of everything together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Isaac has a question. How long does it take to create an art piece?
Hey, Isaac.
Um,
Like individually, maybe.
It could take you 1 minute. It could take you years. It's and it's kind of you know what do you choose to take on? I'd say, and what challenges does the project have? I think that was a big part of this presentation here was like I think what I was trying to say over and over is like it takes planning, right? And if you want to put something out there like a dream or a vision you have, and you have some cool idea that you want to put out, like you have to plan it. That takes a lot of time. We put in months of just ideas to get to the point where we were able to start even building sculpture pieces and then the video and creating a story. right? All of these things are important. So um, it took a year, more than a year to put this together. So, um, but then on the other hand, you could if you I see some people that can like put together and draw something amazing, artists that are out there, and they can draw something up in like 1 minute, and it looks great. It looks amazing. So, um, it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to put together.
Yeah, I agree with Joel. There's some pieces in there, like we handcrafted all these little stones and stuff that were on the set, and that literally took, yeah, less than a minute to do. And then there's some other pieces like the alebrije, which took like 3, 4, 8 to 10 hour days with multiple people working on it at the same time. And it's like, yeah, which pieces do you want to put more time in? Which pieces do you spend less time in? But it is definitely all over the place, but it is where you choose to like invest in.
Yeah, thank you. Just kind of pushing through these questions. Rosemary has a question about your process. How did you make the 3D mock-ups?
What was it, the video, maybe the 3D mock-up of the video? I'm guessing that was in Unreal Engine, which I use. That's what I'm using for video game development. So that I was already kind of working in that, and which was super helpful. I didn't ever think it would be useful for something like this, but in Unreal Engine, used that and probably put that together in a couple days. Just placement, a lot of it was placement of using like 3D models. So I highly recommend if you can jump on, if you're interested in 3D space and 3D work, then and definitely check out Unreal Engine. Although I might be wrong, if you're talking about the 3D pieces that Sen made, I'll let Sen talk about those too.
Yeah, 3D pieces in terms of like the sculpture work, yeah, that we did have a lot of references. We were looking at 3D like prints and different like kinds of mock-ups, and we definitely wanted to stay true to the animals. So a lot of that was just like making sure that the sculpture and form was correct using like scaling and mathematics to stay true to it. But yeah, it's just a lot of different like methods, including cardboard armature with 3D print armature that was then like dressed with like scraps of like cardstock, vinyl, and other kinds of materials like that. That was we definitely had like wide variety of material, and we definitely had a wide variety of references that we are using to create each one.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like you use a lot, yeah, like you said, a variety of material. So, anything be put together to make a really beautiful piece. I think we have time for one last question. Ismail wants to know, why are the animals glowing in the last picture?
Ismail, I think Ismail left. I saw it on the chat. He said
Oh
bye.
no.
But just yeah, that these animals do light up, and they do have lights inside of them that are programmed to match or change with the video projection. So we wanted to add that element in the 3D Unreal mockup. Um, yeah. So and just real quick, I do see there's one other question we could take real quick was how did you develop your skills? And did you go to college, art school? We we learned a lot of this stuff on our own, and I mean, I can speak for myself. Learned a lot of it for my own. Is a lot of experimentation and a lot of just taking on ideas where like somebody has some cool idea and just going for it and not really caring if you're gonna how good it will be. It's just trying it. That's the first step to doing anything. Is you just go for it and try it no matter what, and then you can always do it again and it'll be better. And Sen, if you want to answer it too, but I just wanted to throw that in.
Well, coincidence. I mean, I actually did not go to college for art, and I did not go to art school. I went to college for business, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go for business because, like, for me, I was around a lot of artists. I was around my father, and there's a lot of people that honestly I feel like you could learn from, including the internet. Like, YouTube is a huge resource. People are a huge resource. If you connect with like others that are doing something that you think is really cool, just like, hey, how did you do that? And like even like the laser cutting and all that to create the plants. One of our good friends, Rob, he was like a huge help in like guiding like through the process of like learning that new skill. Like how do you create AI files that a laser cutter can just like cut out and then like piece them together so it works all together. But yeah, I think being resourceful in that way, like to grow your skills is super important too. And don't you don't have to go to art school to get skills, but it certainly does like help too, you know, because there's a huge network as well in those kinds of practices.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for answering all our questions. Unfortunately, we can't answer all the questions, but we can definitely send them over to Joel and Yesenia, and maybe we can, have them published. Before we sign off today, I do want to encourage you all to draw and create your own alebrije in your classrooms or on your own. If you'd like Yesenia and Joel to see your alebrijes, maybe you can, send us images of your drawings. Teachers, you can send images of your students' drawings to schoolprograms@nhm.org. Here's the email. And we would like to have, some images published on our website too. So if you would like to have your alebrije on our website, please send that over. And yeah, just want to say thank you again to Joel and Yesenia. This is one of my favorite pieces at the museum. And if you have any more questions or want to take a closer look at more webinars, we definitely have more on our YouTube. And if you want to learn more about PST Art and Science Guide, you can go to pst.art. So thank you again. We'll see you soon.
Bye.